Welcome to the Ford Steelers Extra Point.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome inside the KDKA TV studios. After a Steelers loss in Philadelphia, 27-13 is your final. Bob Pompeani joined here by Chris Hoke Bro 76. And we have a lot to get into. Post-game reaction. Rich Walsh is in Philadelphia. We'll be having Mike Tomlin's press conference, and then your reaction to this game and what it means moving forward to both the Steelers and the Ravens, who won today. But first, Chris, the offense did this team no favors today. They couldn't generate much. It took way too long to get started.
Yeah.
When you dig a hole on the road to that team, you're not going to have success.
There's no question about it. Listen, this defense isn't the first defense in the NFL for any reason. They came into this game, and it seemed to me in the first quarter, Bob, like they were playing at a different speed than the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, in the first quarter, the Steelers had 0 first downs, 0 for 4 on third down, and had 2 total yards on offense. I mean, they were completely smothered by the Philadelphia Eagles in the first quarter, and that set the tone. They did rebound a little bit and didn't panic in the second quarter, but more of the same in the third and fourth quarter. What happened in the first?
Yeah, in the third and fourth quarter, they couldn't get the ball back. The critical moment was Steelers driving with a chance, and then Najee Harris, unforced error, turnover. They recovered, go immediately the other way, and it took 6.5, almost 7 minutes. And then at the end of the game, another long possession, 10 minutes. The Steelers never got the ball back.
And that was the problem, really. They got going in the second half, and the momentum really drove, and the Eagles took the wave to the finish line. And you think about that. The Steelers only had 1 possession in that third quarter, and that was that fumble by Najee Harris.
Right.
And they methodically moved the ball down the field on the Steelers and punched it in. And that put them up by 2 scores. And then after that, listen, the reality is, like you said, Bob, the Eagles took the ball and stuffed it down the Steelers' throat for 10.5 minutes to close the game out. That's unheard of. I don't even know that's ever happened in Steeler history for a team to get the ball with 10:29 left in the fourth quarter and never give it back to the Steelers.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder about the fourth down play where they punted. Maybe you should have just gone for it at that point, because Philadelphia was churning, no question. We have a lot to get into. We're going to have Mike Tomlin's press conference, a lot of injury updates. You saw T.J. Watt go down in this game. That's all straight ahead. So keep it here as we continue with the Ford Extra Point on KDKA Plus. We'll have reaction, analysis, and then your phone calls up until 9 o'clock right here on KDKA Plus. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Ford Steelers Extra Point. The Ford F-150 is the official truck of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the best-selling truck in Pittsburgh.
If you're just joining us, thank you for tuning in to KDKA Plus. This is the Ford Extra Point Show. Bob Pompeani and Chris Hoke with you. On a day, the Steelers really did not offer much resistance in terms of offense. Only 163 total yards, over 400 for Philadelphia. Time of possession, Chris, was killer in this game because the Steelers couldn't get it back. Almost 40 minutes to 20 minutes.
Yeah, and in the first half, the Steelers were right there, right? It was a 4-point game. The Steelers were only off of the Eagles by 1 minute. Then you turn the second half, and they completely got dominated by the Eagles in time of possession. It was 2-1, right? 40 minutes to 20 minutes, like you said. And here's a scoring breakdown, Bob.
Yeah, we start with an Elliott field goal, which is fine. Boswell offset that. Brown with a 5-yard touchdown. This is where Jalen Hurts got going. He was 8 for his first 8 for 121 yards. Brown went over 100 yards in this game. You might remember this week they're talking about bickering in the locker room. That obviously did not affect this performance. And then Devonta Smith, 2-yard touchdown. Again, both over the middle. Freiermuth made a beautiful catch. Strong hands to pull down a 9-yard touchdown. The only touchdown of the day for the Steelers. Mr. Automatic Boswell scored again. So did Elliott, who had a rocky couple of weeks, but he made sure things were different this time. And they had a late touchdown. And that late touchdown was after that Najee Harris fumble. And it was a critical one because it led to the tush push and a 1-yard touchdown. Jalen Hurts now has 14 rushing touchdowns, one off his personal high in NFL all-time leadership in terms of rushing touchdowns for a quarterback one season. He and Josh Allen have that distinction right now. But here's another thing. Turnovers. The Steelers were +2 in the first half, and you didn't feel that way. T.J. Watt had a forced fumble in there, and then after that, they go backwards. Josh Sweat had a sack after a couple of penalties. They get nothing. They punt. Cooper DeJean fumbles. they're knocking on the door and they only settle for 3.
3. And that's the thing, right? 2 takeaways, 3 points, and those were both in plus territory. They're both in the Eagles' territory. The Eagles get a turnover in their own territory, I call it minus territory. They marched down the field 74 yards, took a little bit of the Pittsburgh Steelers' soul, Bob, and punched the ball in to go up 2 scores. That was the turning point in the game, because at that point, it was a 1-score game. It was the first possession of the third quarter, and they got that ball back. An unforced error by Najee Harris. And they just went down. The game was over after that.
You don't see that from Harris very often. He's pretty secure with that ball, but he just took his eye off of it, and that happens a lot in those plays, which is why that's a dangerous play, the pitch play. You're trying to figure out where your blockers are and run lanes are, and then he took his eye off of it. But, bottom line is the Steeler defense, you can tell they were just on the field too long. Their offense had to do more, and they just couldn't do it. And then the longer it went, the worse it got. The Steeler defense with some injuries. Now, T.J. Watt, we talked about that. Another injury is Dante Jackson. He left with a back injury. He was on the ground for quite some time. But again, short week. We talk about this at the beginning of the season. You have these 3 games in 11 days, all very physical teams, all very good teams. This to start. Now you have
the Ravens.
Baltimore, Saturday, short week. They won today impressively after a bye week, so they're sitting pretty nice there in that situation. But they got to win that game. If the Steelers win, they win the division, basically. So
there's no question. Listen, they came into this game without Deshaun Elliott. Came into this game without Larry Ogunjobi. If you think about
George Pickens.
And George
Don't
Pickens, but I'm thinking defensively, right? But to me, Deshaun Elliott might have been the MVP to this point in the season.
All right, Mike Tomlin is about to address the media. Let's take you live to Philadelphia.
I just told the team in there tonight, man, we didn't coach as well as we'd like, and we didn't play as well as we'd like. And it's just such a fine line at this level. It is. If you just look at that game, man, we had a penalty going in that forced us to settle for a field goal. We turned the ball over on the short field and got no points. And there were several possession downs on defense where we had opportunities to tackle ball carriers in the flat, and we missed those tackles, and that produced extended drives and thus points. And so that's life in our business. It's not anything mystical. It's very fundamental. We got to play discipline. We got to secure the ball. We got to tackle. And we didn't do some of those fundamental things well enough tonight to secure victory. And so, although it sucks, man, we learn and we proceed and move forward. From a health standpoint, Justin Fields, man, had an abdominal injury. Don't know the extent of that. On that slide, he injured his abdominal. Dante Jackson had a back injury. He wasn't able to return. And TJ had an ankle. I think that can be described as a low ankle at this juncture, but I have more information for you the next time we get together. Questions?
Mike, you guys were fighting back in the turnover down on their 26 or whatever was big at that point, not just one.
But as I mentioned, there were several plays like that were significant. Settling for a field goal when we had the ball maybe around the 1 is significant. Not making tackles in the flat when we have a chance to make those tackles on possession downs are significant. And so, you can point to one play, but more than anything, when I look at it through the lens in which I look at it, we weren't good enough in some fundamental areas tonight, and we own that, particularly as coaches.
Mike, offensively, what kept you from being more consistent?
Again, we started slow, but again, you got to give some credit to those guys. I wasn't necessarily overly concerned about the start. The starts are not going to define us. But again, I think largely when you look at the big picture, it's those fundamental things I outlined.
Mike, what wasn't working in the pass defense tonight?
I don't know that, I feel that way. I just thought that we didn't win enough possession downs. They possessed the ball. Like I mentioned, we didn't tackle well enough. And that's life.
Mike, you waited 26 seconds to call the timeout after TJ said. What was your thought process?
I got caught up, man, in some information, and I'll just leave it at that.
Coach, what wasn't working with the run game?
They did a nice job. They get in those 6-man fronts, man, and make you block individual, and one man wins a block, man, and it creates issues for you. And I thought they did a nice job.
Mike, it looked like Darnell was punched on that scuffle in there. What explanation did you receive from the officials?
Not a sufficient one.
Mike, how do you keep this loss from snowballing and carrying into the next 2 games?
It's a loss. Let's not get dramatic.
Mike, playoffs are always a goal. You did clinch a playoff spot from some outside. Does that matter to you at all?
Not as I stand here today. We had a game to play today. We wanted to win it, and we didn't. And so, some of that other stuff is less relevant to us.
Anyone else?
Just to clarify, did they call Darnell for blocking him into?
I'll let them explain that sequence.
I believe there is a full report coming.
Yeah, it is. That's why. Why should I explain it?
Not sure if you've been asking about the missed tackles. How much of that was concerning? Just how they were able to bounce off your guys?
Again, as I outlined in my opening statement, I thought it was significant.
Anyone else? All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that's Mike Tomlin after the game. Not happy with some of the officiating calls. We'll get into that as we progress here, but he talked about possession down tackling. That was a big problem here, especially later in the game. The Kenneth Gainwell, when he darted between Patrick Queen and I think it was Joey Porter Jr., that could have been a stop, forcing a field goal. Instead, they ended up getting a touchdown out of that.
Touchdown, yeah, and they got down to the 2-yard line or something like that. And really, that happened several times, right, where they use their speed and quickness. I mean, this is a very fast team, the Philadelphia Eagles, and they were able to split defenders to gain extra yards. And there were times when they were able to break tackles. And so the Steelers, we came into this game, and the Eagles clearly outplayed them. And there's a lot to learn from this game as they quickly try to get turned around and ready for the Ravens.
Yeah, as far as slow starts, they're a problem, and they were again today, and they put them behind the 8 ball. And Mike Tomlin, although he says it doesn't define them, and they fought back, they could have been in a position to take the lead here at one point, but still, it's a slow start, Chris. And when you start slow against a team like that, you don't ever get the lead back. those are significant moments, I think.
Starting slow is tough, right? You go on the road, you don't want to start slow in a place you haven't won in, 50, 60 years? And so that's tough, and you come out. But Coach Tom, what he's saying is, Bob, is that he believes in their team. He believes that they can score points, and even though they come out and start slow, it's not going to define them because there's 3 more quarters, and they've shown this season that they can rebound and not panic and come back and win the game. The only problem is, like Tom Brady said in this broadcast, they're not playing the Philadelphia Eagles in those other games. Today they played the Eagles, the best defense in professional ball, it showed, and a very high-powered offense. It showed today that they can pass the ball when they want to.
Yeah, that's a really good team, and they're now moving into a top of the NFC ladder there with Detroit, which last check was getting pummeled by Buffalo at home. So that's something for them to think about. As far as Russell Wilson today, I mean, again, slow start. There wasn't much going on. The first 4 possessions produced no first downs. Not many guys open. Quite frankly, you don't have Pickens. I think Philadelphia knows exactly what you're going to do, or at least try to do. And he ended up with kind of pedestrian numbers at 14 of 22, 128. 1 touchdown, no interception. So he didn't make a mistake, but then again, there were not many openings down there.
And there weren't many opportunities, right? You think about in the second half, the
Austin flea flicker was about the only play.
The big play, 31 yards, right? But in the second half, the Eagles just completely dominated time possession. They were getting third downs, and the turnover by Najee. They didn't have many opportunities. I thought in that first quarter, part of the problem, I want to go back and study the film, Bob, was that the pocket was collapsing so fast. Even though they only had 2 sacks in this game, it seemed like that pocket just collapsed, especially from the outside, from Nolan Smith Jr., from Sweat, from those 2 guys, and there was nowhere to step up either. And so it was very difficult for him. And him being 5'11", however tall he is, it's tough at times when you have guys right in your face and you're trying to throw the ball. You can't step into the ball, so balls are going to sail on you.
And they really play tight coverage down the field. It's hard to find openings there. You have to do something underneath, crisscross, whatever the case may be. As you heard Mike Tomlin said, T.J. Watt, of all the people injured, that's a big one, and he has what he described as a low ankle sprain or low ankle problem. They're going to probably do some testing on it. We'll hear from T.J. Watt coming up. We'll take a break right now, and when we come back, more interviews from the locker room. We'll also, again, provide more analysis for you, what it means for the Steelers moving forward against a big game coming up here on Saturday, short week in Baltimore. That's all straight ahead as we continue with the Ford Extra Point Show right here on KDKA+.
Welcome back to the Ford Steelers Extra Point.
All right, welcome back as we continue right here on KDK. Let's take a look at the McClellan's Contracting and Roofing final stats, and you'll see domination there by Philadelphia, 26-10 in the first down department. Passing yards, more than double. Rushing yards, more than double. I mean, it was pretty much one-sided. Third down conversions, that's the other thing right there. Mike Tomlin alluded to that, 10 when you make 10 third down conversions, and most of those came in the fourth quarter in that one drive, you're not going to get the ball back, period.
No, listen, 10 for 17, I can't do this math, but I'm thinking, 60% plus? And that's this dominant football when you're 10 for 17. That's why they went from having a 1-minute differential in the time of possession in the first half to a 20-minute time of possession differential in the second half, and just completely annihilated the Steelers team because of that ability to convert third downs and fourth downs, Bob. Don't forget, fourth and ones, they got a couple of those as well.
Yeah, they have that thing pretty well figured out, the tush push. They're going to get it every time they do it almost. 93% last year, down to 80% this year, still a pretty good clip. All right, we told you about T.J. Watt with his injury. He did speak afterwards to me. That's a positive sign. Let's hear what T.J. had to say.
How difficult is it for defense to be on the field so much at that point?
Just need to find ways to get off. We've been pretty good all year long on 3 and outs and getting off the field on third downs, and we weren't good enough today. There were a lot of long drives, 13, 14, 15 play drives that we need to get better at.
What's the challenge in cleaning up some of the things on a short week here?
We just need to get as much rest as you can, get healthy, look at the film, and take as many mental reps as you can throughout the week, because obviously guys are going to be beat up throughout the week.
Did you guys expect them to pass as much as they did?
I mean, we knew they were capable of doing run and pass. That's what makes them a challenging offense to go against, and we just didn't do enough today.
Do you anticipate you'll be able to go next week?
We'll have to wait and see.
DJ, is there any consolation? You guys are in the playoffs.
No consolation here.
All right, that's T.J. Watt. We're going to show you more of that, but there were some guys in the background. You know how it is in the locker room, Chris. We're not going to show you that because that's not something we're allowed to do. In the meantime, he did say that they had x-rays. They turned out to be negative, so that's good. And he'll have to wait and see. I'm sure not happy after this game. As you can see, he and Highsmith were very active today. I thought Alex Highsmith was a game changer. Both of them combined, 3 tackles for losses, 3 quarterback hits, 3 sacks. They were both outstanding today.
And they were getting after it. There were many times where they were so close, right? And Jalen Hurts, his escapability, his ability to get out of the pocket and elude the sacker when it comes Highsmith or Watt. And that's what hurt the Steelers today, because a lot of other quarterbacks would not be able to elude the rush and the attack of those 2 defenders.
And as far as those guys, they're facing an offensive line that is arguably the best in football. You can say Detroit when healthy or whatever you want to say, Buffalo when they're healthy. But that's a good offense. And Lane Johnson's very good at what he does. And yet Watt figured him out as time went on.
Yeah, Watt got a nice sack on him. Nice speed rush around the edge and beat him on one. The other sack he had was really just an effort sack where he laid out and Jalen Hurts for no gain, but still a sack's a sack. I think it puts him at 11.5 for the season. So, really, T.J. Watt just keeps coming. And 2 sacks in a game is very difficult to get.
But, going into this one, again, we had heard all week about some internal strife going on in that locker room with A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts. Well, today, Smith, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown combined for 23 targets, 19 catches, and over 200 yards, 100 plus each. Yeah. So they're certainly on the same page. When those guys in there, they don't even have Dallas Goedert right now. He's out with an injury. So they're going to be ready to go in the playoffs.
There's no question. Listen, I think the Steelers came in, to me, the game plan was to shut down the run game. They were the 31st ranked passing offense in the NFL. So they weren't really coming into this game fearful of what Jalen Hurts could do with his arm. He showed them today that they can and they're capable. He threw for 290 yards. Jalen Hurts, 2, like you said, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So they came out throwing the ball. I think that caught the Steelers off guard in that first half.
Russell Wilson is now addressing the media in Philadelphia. Let's take you there live.
We had too many penalties, throughout the game. Big ones. Obviously we had that drive in the red zone. Both teams are kind of getting after. They called on us. We get backed out. Unfortunately, that could have been a touchdown drive for us. And then we came out in the second half, and we had the flea flicker play, which is a great play. Great job by the line. Great job by Jalen getting it to me, and then Calvin made a great catch, drive, and then just unfortunately it didn't go our way there. And we turned it over there, and then the red zone the fumble. But the second half we didn't capitalize on our moments. Obviously, we only had 2 possessions, and that first possession coming out would have made it a tie game. With all the negative stuff we did, So I thought the first half we had way too many 3rd and longs. When you're 3rd and 18, I think we were 3rd and 22 on the last drive. It's just it's hard to play winning football that way.
Well, I was going to ask you, when the possessions are limited like that, does that make every possession so key?
Yeah, for sure. That's why we were aggressive on the flea flicker. I thought that was a good call by Arthur. Great catch once again. We just. Unfortunately, the game was, in striking distance, and when it was, we didn't get to finish the game the way we needed to and make plays when we needed to.
Russ, what made it so tough to run the ball today, and how much did that impact what you guys weren't able to do?
Yeah, we weren't successful in first and second down. I mean, that's why we had so many third and longs. We got to be successful in first and second down to get positive plays, and they did a good job. They're a good football team, and we got to tip our hats to them. They play way better than us tonight. It's unacceptable how we play. I think we feel like we got to be sharper, and so we just got to stay the course and know that obviously we got a big week coming up. We got to respond. We got to get ready to go, and that's where our focus has to be.
Russ, did you also feel like there was a missed opportunity at the end of the first half in that 2-minute drill? Probably wasn't as clean as you were.
Yeah, we thought we could get a touchdown. Boz did a great job making the field goal for us. That could have been a good thing too for us. And I think that obviously Calvin did a good job on the third and long, making the field goal range. I believe it was second and long, third and long, and I think the biggest thing is that I thought Pat played a great game. He made some plays for us. Obviously down in the red zone, his touchdown catch was great. Tried to put it up for him. He made a great play. There's some positives, but not enough of them. And and so we have to look at the film, see what we can do better. There's a lot more there. And like I said, I think it's a very simplistic game. I mean, I think in the sense that if we're successful in first and second down, it gives us a chance to have third and shorts, and that's why we converted and scored a touchdown that drive. We had had a couple third and threes, third and two, third and one, I think even. And so that's how we got to play the game. Especially when it's a good football team.
Russ, it seems like there's always debate with the Steelers. You guys are just a good team or a great team. You could argue the Eagles are the best team you guys played this year. Just how far away do you think you guys are to making that statement you guys are great?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we have to be able to, we'll have to determine how great we can be. There's a lot more football left. And I think we have the right guys. I think that the biggest thing is that I think any great team has to respond. You're going to have adversity. You're going to have ups and downs throughout the season. I've been on great teams before. Sometimes you don't win them all. I thought the biggest thing is that for us, when the game's in striking distance, we gotta tie it up. We gotta make the plays. We gotta find a way. And unfortunately, we didn't do that tonight. We've done that all year though. That's been a good thing for us. So we can't flinch. We gotta get better. And we gotta be cleaner. For this week, obviously going on the road.
Second game without George Pickens. Where are you guys feeling his absence most? And if it lingers into next week, what do you have to do to overcome that?
George is doing everything he can to get back, obviously. He's a tremendous competitor. We got guys that we trust. Obviously, I trust Calvin, I trust Van, I trust Scotty, I trust Big Mike, I trust Muth, all those guys. And so it's obviously he's one of the world's best. Obviously having George Pickens out there on the field is a good thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But either way, we still have to respond and find ways to make plays. I think the storyline in this game really is just simply first and second down. We weren't good enough, and third down we just, when you're playing a championship caliber football team, you can't be 3rd and 18. So that's where we can fix that. I think that we can and we will. And we're going against another really good football team next week, so we got to respond.
Russ.
Yeah, they have to respond now because it's going to come down to potentially that game winning the division. Take a look at the quarterback comparison again. Not much there, but without George Pickens, it is tough to create a lot of separation with some of these guys. On the other hand, Jalen Hurts was really good today, and he had not had some good passing numbers, at least not like this the last couple of weeks. It was more Saquon Barkley. Well, Barkley was limited at 19 for 65 today, and 22 of those came on one run. So your thoughts about what you saw from Jalen Hurts and Russell Wilson?
Well, Jalen Hurts surprised me, right? Because all the talk all week was that they couldn't throw the football, that they were a better running team because they were averaging more yards in the running game than the passing game, and they came out to show the world on a game of the week. Right? And they did that, thrown from 290 yards, and both his receivers going over 100 yards, Bob. That shows me that this team can win in any way. They can score points through the air and score points on the ground with their legs. And Russ Wilson, really, at the end of the day, 128 yards. That's half of what he's been averaging since he came out, and he's been playing since his injury. So that's tough, too, when you only have 128 yards passing. And it's due to not converting on third downs, and then getting them, not stopping them and letting them continue drives.
And penalties. You put yourself back a little bit. But
they had penalties too, right?
Yeah, they did. But there were some critical ones in the first half of the Steelers that I think really affected them. But the bottom line was, you need guys to step up. If George Pickens isn't there, a lot of other people have to do more than what we saw today. We'll go over some of the numbers when we come back. But we continue here. Steelers lose 27-13. They're now 10-4. The Ravens are 9-5. They won today impressively against the Giants, setting up a big matchup on Saturday. We'll talk more about that and more player interviews from the locker room as we continue live right here on KDKA. Plus, this is the Ford Extra Point.
Welcome back to the Ford Steelers Extra Point.
You right here on KDK Plus. This is your AFC playoff picture. Kansas City and Buffalo both have won their divisions, so that's locked up. Pittsburgh and Houston right now clinch playoff spots. They have not yet won the division. As you know, Baltimore's breathing down the Steelers' neck at 9-5. And then you look at the other part of this. You got a lot of teams vying for wild card position. Denver, surprisingly, is 9-5, and the Chargers are going backwards at this point. Still other teams in the hunt, but that's how it stacks up right now. So the Steelers want to stay where they are and be the 3rd seed, and if they are, that would be a home playoff game. So we'll see what it means. But the Steelers got a big drive when they needed it. They were down 17-3. In case you missed the beginning of this game, they were really outplayed thoroughly. They went on an 11-play, 70-yard drive, 6 minutes, 33 seconds. It ended with a Pat Freiermuth touchdown of 9 yards, a really good catch. He talked about that and more after the game.
Yeah, it's awesome to be able to clinch it this early, but, obviously, wish we got the win today to celebrate. Obviously, it's cool to clinch this early, but, we want to do some stuff big in the postseason and hopefully clinch the division next weekend. So we just got to move past this quick and get ready for next week.
Let's do one more. You have to move past it quick because you're playing on a short week?
For sure, yeah. Obviously, it helps that we're playing on Saturday, playing a divisional rival. Get past these guys quick and move on.
All right, there's Freiermuth's day, 3 receptions on 6 targets. I always think he needs to be targeted more. Is that just me, or do you agree with that?
Because I couldn't agree more with you, Bob. I believe that he needs to be targeted. I was just going to say that because this is a guy, especially with George Pickens out. He had 3 catches last week on 3 targets. Today he had 3 catches on 6 targets. They need to get the ball to him more. He has great hands, he's surefire, and he breaks tackles and has a lot of yards after contact.
Cam Heyward has a busy day today. He's at the podium right now. Let's hear what number 97 has to say.
Missed plays for splash. On all sides of the ball, I thought our special teams played really well. 1 turnover, and I thought they played really well. But defense and offense, below the line, camp out. We got to learn from it. We're not afforded a lot of time, so we got to have a memory like a goldfish. It's got to move on. Not to say that we don't respect who we just played, but the clock is ticking, and guys got to get right. We got to learn from our mistakes and move on.
Cam, what was happening on some of all those time-consuming drives? How come you could have converted some balls?
Yeah, I think we didn't do a good job of tackling, especially on the edge. We can get them in 3rd and long. We didn't take advantage of that. We talk about plastering. I thought a couple times they were able to, sustain drives by QB mobility, but we had to do a better job of finishing those plays on the defensive side of the ball, which we didn't.
Did you talk to DJ, and do you think there's any chance he'll play against them?
We'll see. Fingers crossed. Steeler faithful is hopefully he recovers fast. But if he's not able to go, I like to think we're well equipped to get these guys right and go into the Lions Den and the Baltimore Ravens.
See, along those lines, what goes through your mind when you see him go down and grab his left ankle?
We've been bit by the injury bug before, but we feel bad for a guy that works his tail off. But hopefully I think we'll get him back soon. But, I'm not a doctor, so we'll see what happens.
Does it matter, Cam, take any amount of satisfaction that you guys did clinch your playoff spot with some outside help to
Good job, but, there's bigger fish to fry. We're not just trying to squeeze into the playoffs, but, it's nice to know that we don't have to wait till week 18 to figure out if we're in the playoffs or not. We have a playoff team. We've done that before this game. We played a quality playoff opponent. Didn't have our best showing, but there's a lot of ball in front of us. Now we're guaranteed what's our record now? 10-4. So we're guaranteed 4 games. You know, and then we got 3 on the regular and then 1 in the playoffs. But I'd like to get this thing going the right way.
Cam, now that you've played the Eagles, you talk about the challenge of having to stop Hurts, Barkley, Brown, Smith, and whether the concentration of stopping Barkley affected their passing game?
You know, I think there was a lot of yak. You know, there was a lot of times where, you know, I thought we were able to stop the run, but you give guys like A.J. Brown space. You give guys like Devontae Smith space. And so, you know, playing defense is a 11-man job. You know, you can't stop one and think the other 10 are just going to follow. You got to stop all 11. Hopefully it's a great lesson for us where we learn and, you know, come back better because of it.
All right, Cam Heyward talking after this game. You can see Patrick Queen was all over the place. 11 tackles, 5 of them solo, although he did miss the tackle on Kenneth Gainwell that allowed them to score a really killer touchdown at the end. Alex Highsmith had a big day. KZ filled in. You know, really, we talked at the pregame also about no Deshaun Elliott. That's a run-stopping kind of guy. You know, even though they did a good job on Barkley, his presence out there is sorely missed, too.
There's no question about it. Listen, when the Steelers want to stop the run, they bring the 8th defender in the box, which is the safety, and that's Deshaun Elliott. And he has been a sure tackler. He's been in the right place at the right time. And last week against Njoku, he was a big reason why Njoku was targeted, what, Bob, 11, 12 times and only had 6 or 7 catches for very minimal yardage. I mean, in the run, in the pass, he's been, in my mind, maybe arguably the MVP of this defense.
Another guy who's played very well is Alex Highsmith, back since his injury. He was very active today. He also spoke after the game.
We had a schematic approach to stop the run, and so I think they made the proper adjustments to what we played. But in the end of the day, we just didn't do our jobs good enough, and we just got to bounce back. So just got to flush this one down and get ready for Saturday.
Unlike this defense, what we've seen the last couple of weeks with the lengthy offensive drives by the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean that was it. There was too many drives where we had them. 3rd and long, 3rd and manageables, and we just didn't make the plays to get off the field. And so, we just got to look at the man in the mirror and see how we can be better. And, we just didn't make the plays that need to be made.
Short week, is this something you just have to have a short-term memory with?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, especially considering we're playing a division opponent on the road. We really just got to, like I said, flush this one and move on because this is a big game, and so we got to get this one.
It's probably difficult to think about afterwards, but is it any consolation you guys are in the playoffs with the Dolphins and Colts losing?
Yeah, I mean, I think our ultimate goal. I think the main focus now is just winning the division, and we know that. I think the circumstances line up. I think we can do that. We win this weekend, but we just got to win from here on out. When we get to the playoffs, get to the bowl. That's the goal. So we just got to, like I said, flush this one down and just find ways we can get better.
Alex Highsmith talked about those long drives, and the one that really was the killer was the Najee Harris fumble. They were knocking on the door. That could have been a tied game at 2020 if that drive culminates with a touchdown. Instead, they go the other way. 13 plays, 1, 2, 3 third down conversions, 1 3rd and 3. Jalen Hurts had a quarterback draw in that sequence, which was killer because they're going from the outside. The opening was right up the middle. He took as much as he could get.
And the Steelers are running this stunt where they have a tackle-in stunt where they would shoot Cam Heyward outside and bring Alex Highsmith underneath. And on that play, it was the same stunt. Cam Heyward went outside, but Alex Highsmith got held by the tackle as he went to come underneath. It opened that middle wide open for Jalen Hurts to run for a first down and extra yardage. And those are things that happen when there are risks in doing blitzes and doing these kind of line stunts that can at times, if they get knocked off, can open up big gashes for an escape lane for a running back or a quarterback.
So Philadelphia wins 27-13. The Steelers have to put this one behind them and move on to the kind of winner-take-all matchup that's down in Baltimore. If they win that game, they would win the division, and that's their ultimate goal. But the Ravens are coming off a win today as they beat the Giants following a bye week, and we'll talk about what that bye week may mean for the Ravens moving forward. That's all when we come back as you're watching the Ford Extra Point Show right here on KDKA+.
Welcome back to the Ford Steelers Extra Point.
All right, we continue with a look around the league, and you can see the Chiefs took care of business. Patrick Mahomes did leave this game with an injury. I'm not sure. It looks like the x-rays are negative, but he was hobbling around pretty good, 21-7, as they remain the #1 team in the AFC. Bengals are still alive. They beat the Titans 37-27. Another good day for Joe Burrow. Ravens over the Giants 35-14. They're coming off a bye week. That was big. Texans beat the Dolphins 20-12. And we talked about that other game, that Buffalo game, man. They go into Detroit, win 48-42. We saw 90 points in that game. We also saw 1,100 yards of offense, and Josh Allen in his last 2 weeks, 5 touchdown passes and 5 rushing touchdowns.
And
Incredible.
0 turnovers.
0 turnovers. How about
Incredible. 10-0 ratio. I mean, that is, he's playing elite football, MVP type football.
Yeah. All right. Najee Harris, say this. He met with the media afterwards. That was his fumble that cost really the Steelers momentum and ultimately the game. This is what he had to say afterwards.
She was playing 5 down, and they had a lot of one-on-ones, and they had guys on the secondary filling in the holes too, and the backers were doing a good job running through stuff and balling up and running.
How frustrating were some of the self-inflicted wounds, penalties, especially offensively for you guys?
I mean, yeah, it was drive killers, but I had one myself too, so I ain't no point of pointing fingers, but yeah, it's drive killers.
That pitch play is one that you guys run all the time. You never fumble. You've always.
Yeah, I took my eyes off of it. I was looking at the hole rather than securing the football, and I fumbled it.
How do you keep a loss like this from snowballing? How do you change the momentum of this team going into the next couple games before the playoffs?
Just worry about the next game. You watch the film of this, and you just worry about the next one.
How much confidence do you guys have in this offense to turn things around, or I should say, clean up some of those problem areas on the short week?
Turn things around? What you mean by turn things around?
Sorry, I meant more of just clean things up and move.
Oh, clean things up. Penalty-wise? Just be better. Just be better at it. Let's practice it.
Despite the result, I feel like you guys were a little more physical this time than a couple years ago when you played these guys in the same building.
Man, we lost both times. It don't really matter. So I won't.
What went through your mind when TJ went down late in the game? You guys are on the sideline.
I hope he gets up.
How much is that not having George there when you guys weren't offensively?
I mean, we want George out there. We're confident in the guys we have. We just didn't come through.
That's Najee Harris after the game, pretty much, and we saw this when you looked at it. He just took his eyes off the ball. It was as simple as that. He was trying to figure out where the blocking opportunities were and where the lanes were.
Yeah, there's no question. Listen, like any sport, right? Before you tag someone, you catch the baseball before you tag, right? And in football, you catch the ball before you run. And in this one, he just admitted it. He was looking at the hole before the ball got there, and he's done that so many times, Bob. But in that moment, the ball went on the ground, and the ball was turned over. Let me put this kind of in perspective here. The Steelers had won defensively just before this, right? They went for that field goal. Mon Adams got called for that personal foul going over the snapper. They went down, and they got the ball, I think it was on the Steelers' 16-yard line. The Steelers held them to another field goal. Right? So they were still in a one-score game. The Steelers are marching down the field on the Eagles
tie it up
pretty easily to tie it up. And this turnover flipped it around, and then the Eagles went down and went not 74 yards for the score to put it up a 2-score game. It was out of reach. And you got to put this a little bit on the defense too, Bob, because the defense, that's what good football teams do. When a sudden change, Coach Tomlin calls it, is when an offense turns the ball over, your defense takes the field, they got to get off the field and get the ball back to your offense. And today they didn't do that. They didn't complement each other like Coach Tomlin often talks about.
Well, I mean, they did originally, but the longer it went and the more minutes they spent on that field, it was getting tougher and tougher to do. Broderick Jones spoke after the game, part of that offensive line. Let's hear what he had to say. All right, we're having some technical difficulty with that, so we'll get back to it momentarily. But I want to get back to that penalty call Mike Tomlin was miffed about. Darnell Washington is driving his guy back and drove him almost into the first row. I guess that's excessive. I don't know. But, I mean, they got 2 penalties on that play. I really expected to see offsetting penalties. That's what they normally do after the melee. after that. What was your take on?
My thing is, I think Coach Tomlin was completely surprised that there were no penalties called against the Eagles on that, right? Both against the Steelers. I think for one, in my mind, it was because Darnell Washington drove Darius Slade, just threw him into the side, the board, right, on the wall there. And that was one. And then Darius Slade's always the second guy. It's the guy that responds. Darius Slade punched him, and then here comes. What is Calvin Austin going to do? This guy, to Darius Slade, fight anybody, right? I mean, it doesn't do anything to help your cause. Another flag there, moved him back. It killed the drive. Those kind of personal fouls. We talked about this when we watched the game, Bob. Personal fouls, holding penalties, big penalties on offense that put you back at 1st and 20, 1st and 25, or 2nd and 20, 25. Those kill drives can't happen.
And then there was a sack. And so all of a sudden they're marching completely backwards and out of every possibility to score. All right, now it's time to look at our Ford road ahead, because the road does not get any easier. We know about this. Coming up, it is the division on the line next Saturday. Keep in mind, we'll be on the air 11:30 in the morning, 2 hours of postgame afterwards, just like we're doing here. So make the switch after the game to KDKA+. It's the Baltimore Ravens. And then short turnaround even more so. And Kansas City still playing for a #1 seed with Buffalo breathing down their necks. So it's going to be important for both teams there on Christmas Day. We'll have that for you on KDKA, so make sure you know that. No Netflix, no problem. You got it on KDKA. And then the last game, and you find this interesting because the Bengals, they still potentially could be knocking on the last wild card.
Yeah, and potentially, if the Steelers can't turn around and win this game against the Ravens, there could be a battle there, Bob, for the Steelers possibly to win the division and the Bengals to get in. So it's crescendoing to the very last game of the season.
Which is exactly what the NFL wants.
Yeah,
and Hard Knocks
absolutely.
and all that stuff as they go down the line. It makes for dramatic television, there's no question. All right, the Steelers lose 27-13. We want to hear from you. We've heard from players. You heard from us. What do you think? At 412-575-2600. It's a special edition of the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. It comes your way next, right here live on KDKA+.